A PlayStation 5 Pro coming by the year 2024, fully equipped with true 8K capabilities and matching high-end frame rates of 144 frames per second? Well, new rumors suggest it is indeed happening. This is definitely a video you don't want to miss. Hey there everyone, I'm the Crapgamer, and this is of course Crapgamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinion, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice a few changes around here, but that shouldn't stop you from giving us a like and possibly consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me and my silly YouTube channel. Now, as many of you know, I'm a technology person. I love technology. At first, I was pretty much against mid-gen refreshes when we first heard rumors of these years and years ago. I can remember being on BGST and talking about how it was kind of foolish that they just sell us these consoles. I spent $500+ on an Xbox One, $400+ on a PS4. Why should I go out a couple years later and spend more money on these types of consoles? It didn't make much sense. I felt a little betrayed. I felt a little ripped off. But at the end of the day, these are things that technology continues to do because it's always evolving. Technology continues and will always continue to evolve at breakneck speeds. Last generation, we got our first taste of mid-gen refreshes in the form of the 2016 PlayStation 4 Pro and the 2017 Xbox One X. Microsoft and Sony seem to have adopted the smartphone philosophy, and it looks like they might continue to iterate on their respective pieces of hardware this generation. The latest rumor, which everyone should take with a huge grain of salt, as with any rumor actually, well, this one sees a PlayStation 5 coming from Sony a lot sooner than we all figured we would actually see something. Sony is currently hiring a senior software engineer for its advanced technology group that specifically focuses on the PlayStation 5's rendering API. Now, the goal is for engineers to help redefine what's possible with the next generation platform by fortifying all the tools responsible for the PlayStation 5's high-end performance. Applicants will directly contribute to the graphics API used to power PlayStation 5 games, including GPU software stack optimization tools used to deliver true high-end experience, native 4K, ray tracing, etc. The listing also mentions the engineer will help craft the architecture of multiple generations of PlayStation consoles. Now, considering the listing is specifically for a PlayStation 5 API engineer, this could indicate a PlayStation 5 Pro is indeed in development. A forward-moving R&D tech advancement noted by PlayStation boss Sean Layden, who said, "You begin working on the next generation platform almost day after you ship whatever your current generation is," which you guys probably remember. This was something that was talked about on the PlayStation podcast with Jabari and Persona, and Sean Layden was a wealth of knowledge and information, letting people know that as soon as you ship your current gen console, you basically start producing your next console in the early stages. So that's why these things seem to come together so quickly, when reality is that it takes years and years of planning and R&D and money and technology. So this is a unique and senior position at the core of PlayStation GPU technology. Your colleagues in ATG will include the engineers developing the rendering and ray tracing libraries, GPU tools, shader compiler, and contributors to the architecture of multiple generations of PlayStation consoles. The role also includes close collaboration with other key hardware and software stakeholders so we can provide game developers with the means to push the boundaries of our platform. The job listing reads, "Reports say that Sony could release a new PlayStation 5 Pro in the coming years, obviously with upgraded hardware using AMD Zen 3 SoCs and higher-end GPU and CPU horsepower. Shaky reports in the past have said a PS5 Pro version could come as soon as 2023, but this is highly unlikely as the current iteration, the base PS5, has yet to mature and the entire technology industry is being squeezed by a significant component shortage that ranges from SoC chips all the way to the memory controllers and specific power management chips. There's also evidence that refreshed PlayStation 5 could release in 2022 with a 6nm SoC based on the N6 node. However, this would not be a PlayStation 5 and Pro. Oh no, it wouldn't be a Pro. Instead, it would just be a PlayStation 5 with a slightly smaller SoC. there would be no performance gains from moving the N7 Plus to the N6 because they are technically part of the same node family at TSMC. Now, this is a very interesting line of thinking that we've seen from Sony. Will there actually be something that comes out? I don't know, but it's interesting that they're actually hiring for multiple positions for something that seems like they're building a more powerful PlayStation 5, and indeed they could be thinking that. Is it something that we know for sure? I don't know. The question that I'd personally ask is if we even need mid-gen refreshes consoles this time around. People are having a very hard time finding the regular consoles as it is, and they're already pushing the limits on what people are willing to spend on luxury items like video game consoles. Now, $500+ is a big spend. Personally, I already feel kind of stupid because I spent $500+ on an Xbox One X just a few years ago, and then spent another $500+ on an Xbox Series X. Both talked up as quote-unquote the world's most powerful console. Both have utterly failed to deliver where it counts most, the actual exclusive games. So with that being said, we never got an idea on what the PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One X actually did in terms of sales numbers, but I can't imagine they were huge sellers. Obviously geared towards the uber hardcore gamer. Now, on the other hand, it might be a completely genius move as well. We have to keep that in mind. These companies aren't foolish. Not at all. They're actually very intelligent companies and do a lot of research into what gamers actually want. So this is something we have to kind of keep in mind as well. The current Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 are already hard to find, so in a couple years when they finally start becoming easier to buy, it'd be the perfect time to artificially induce a higher demand for the product again by making a better version. This is something many companies do, and it definitely works because FOMO is indeed a real thing. So you can imagine, let's say something comes out in 2023, PlayStation 5 Pro for example. Now, so many people are going to be wanting to get that, but maybe you haven't even been able to get a regular PS5 yet, or you have just only started to be able to find these in the stores and things like that. This would be where you introduce a newer version and then you start the cycle all over again with people clamoring to get your product and wanting to get your product as soon as possible. Nintendo is actually known to do this quite a bit. They do it with their products all the time. I think the DS, the 3DS is another example, and then 2DSs, and even with the Switch, they come out with the Switch and then a Switch Lite and then a Switch OLED and then probably a Switch Pro at some point. They do this with a lot of success because people always want the latest and greatest. No matter what happens, I'm sure there's going to be a market for improved consoles. For me personally, as long as I can get at least 60 frames on most games with what I've got now, I'm very happy with that. I feel as if the first year is basically a wash at this point anyway. Sony started hot and cooled off, and Microsoft, well, I'm still waiting for them to actually start. Because so far, I've been very disappointed with what we've actually had in terms of offerings of exclusives from them. Now, I'm sure this will pick up, obviously it's going to pick up later on with Forza Horizon 5 and, of course, Halo Infinite. But you have to keep in mind, I don't plan on playing Halo Infinite until at least it has co-op with the campaign, because I've played all the Halo campaigns with co-op, and I don't want to do this one differently. I'm sure Forza Horizon 5 is going to be amazing, even if slightly downgraded from what we've seen in the past. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this works out, and if all of these things can come together in such a way where it makes sense for Sony and Microsoft. Microsoft is in a little bit of a different situation, mainly because what they actually have is two consoles already on the market. They have an Xbox Series S, which is the weaker model, and an Xbox Series X, which is the stronger model. So it seems like they kind of launched with both a mid-gen refresh and a next-gen one as well. And that's going to be really interesting to see how they go into the future with this. I'm very curious to see how that works out from both sides of the point. But I will link this, of course, in the description below if you're new to the channel. Everything that I do a video on in terms of it being a video not based on opinion, if it's based on facts or news or something like that, or even rumor, I will be able to link it, and I'll link that in the description down below, and you guys will be free to check that out. Call me out. If there's something you want to see, if there's something you would like me to cover, let me know. I will do my best to do that for you all. At the end of the day, I feel like it's very, very important for Microsoft and Sony to keep console gaming alive. I love console gaming. I want to continue to see it thrive. Will it be able to do so if they do mid-gen refreshes? I don't know. There could be a point where people get sick of it. If you go back to the original game crash of 1983, we see a clear instance of people really not wanting to buy you know, a console. People didn't understand it, believe it or not. They didn't understand why they needed to upgrade their Atari. They're like, well, I just got this one and paid, you know, hundreds of dollars for it 5 years ago. Why should I have to buy a new one? And that really kind of helped prompt the game crash. There might come a point in time where consoles are the same way, where people get fed up with menial gains with these things in the first place, because that's how I sort of felt with the One X, where I paid all this money for this and yet the gains weren't that great to begin with. You know, it was just one of those things where I just kind of had come to terms with it. And even so far this generation, there's very few games that have really impressed me to the point where I'm like, holy cow, this is really next gen. You know, like I've said multiple times, so far my favorite games this generation have been Mass Effect trilogy and Alan Wake and Ratchet and Clank. So, you know, it's been a very interesting start to the generation. Let me know what you think. If you enjoy the content, leave us a like, share it out, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, crap gamer 'em up, crap gamer out.